The morning sunlight streamed through the windows of Palmer Industries' executive floor as I reviewed the latest financial reports. Something wasn't adding up, literally. Over the past 6 months, our numbers have mysteriously declined despite record sales. My name is Sarah Palmer, and at 35, I was watching my brother-in-law systematically sabotage the company my father had built from nothing. A knock at my door interrupted my analysis. "Come in," I called, not looking up from the spreadsheets. "The quarterly board meeting has been moved up," my assistant Jenny said, her voice tight with concern. "Michael's called an emergency session for this afternoon." I glanced at my watch, 10:47 a.m. How convenient that I wasn't informed until now. "There's more," Jenny shifted uncomfortably. "He's invited all the major shareholders." Of course he had. Michael had spent months laying the groundwork for this moment, carefully building his case that I was running our family's company into the ground. What he didn't know was that I'd been building something of my own. I pulled up my private email, checking the message I'd received last night from our overseas manufacturing partner. "Evidence secured. Ready when you are." "Thank you, Jenny," I said, closing my laptop. "Please make sure the conference room is set up with enough seats for everyone." After she left, I walked to the window, looking out over the city my father had helped shape through Palmer Industries innovations. We'd started as a small manufacturing company in the Midwest, but Dad's vision and determination had transformed us into a global leader in sustainable technology. He trusted me to carry on that legacy when he passed away 2 years ago. Michael, who'd married my sister Kate just months before Dad's death, had other ideas. The problem started: small, delayed shipments, miscommunicated orders, small discrepancies in the books. Things that could be explained away as normal business hiccups. But I'd been practically raised in this company. I knew every department, every process, every number that mattered. And I knew when something wasn't right. 6 months ago, I caught my first real break. A late-night email accidentally copied to the wrong address revealed Michael's conversations with one of our competitors. He'd been deliberately undermining our contracts, creating manufacturing delays that forced our clients to look elsewhere. That's when I'd started keeping records. Every mistake, every suspicious transaction, every conversation where he subtly suggested that maybe I wasn't cut out for leadership. I documented everything. More importantly, I'd started making moves of my own. My phone buzzed. A text from Kate. "Michael says you're destroying Dad's company. Is it true?" My sister had always been easily swayed by strong personalities. It's what had attracted her to Michael in the first place. His confidence, his smooth talking, his ability to make everything sound like it was for the best. "Come to the board meeting," I texted back. "See for yourself." I spent the next few hours preparing, reviewing the documentation I'd gathered and making sure everything was in order. At 2:45, Jenny knocked again. "They're all here," she said. "Michael's already in the conference room with the board." I gathered my materials, including a small USB drive that contained everything I'd need. Time to face the music. The conference room fell silent as I entered. Michael sat at the head of the table, my father's old seat, looking every inch the concerned executive in his tailored suit. "Sarah," he said, his voice carrying just the right note of regret. "Thank you for joining us." I took my seat, noting the faces around the table. The board members I'd known for years now avoided my eyes. Kate sat next to Michael, her expression troubled. "I've called this emergency session," Michael continued, "because we face a crisis. Under the current leadership, Palmer Industries has seen unprecedented decline. Our stock price has fallen 30% in 6 months. We've lost major contracts. Our reputation is suffering." He gestured to the screen behind him, where graphs showed our company's downward trajectory. "The numbers don't lie," he said gravely. "We need immediate change to save this company." I let him continue his presentation, watching as he methodically laid out his case for my removal. The missed deadlines, the lost contracts, the financial irregularities, all carefully orchestrated to paint a picture of incompetence. "Therefore," he concluded, "I move that we vote to remove Sarah Palmer as CEO, effective immediately." The room was heavy with tension. I could feel the weight of expectations, of judgments, of decisions already made behind closed doors. "Before we vote," I said calmly, "I'd like to present some information of my own." Michael's smile was condescending. "Sarah, the numbers speak for themselves." "They certainly do." I plugged my USB drive into the conference room's computer. but perhaps we should look at all the numbers. The screen behind Michael changed, showing a very different set of data. Emails between him and our competitor, documenting their coordinated efforts to undermine our contracts. Bank transfers showing suspicious patterns of activity. Records of deliberately delayed shipments and sabotage deals. What is this? Michael demanded, his composure cracking slightly. Evidence, I replied simply, of systematic sabotage orchestrated by you over the past 6 months. I clicked to the next slide. Our manufacturing partner in Singapore has provided documentation of your attempts to delay production. Our shipping coordinator has sworn statements about your direct orders to misplace critical deliveries. And our IT department has recovered some very interesting deleted emails. The room erupted in whispers. I saw board members leaning together, shock and anger on their faces. Kate had gone pale. This is ridiculous, Michael sputtered. These documents could be fabricated. You're just trying to save yourself. Mr. Chen, I interrupted, addressing our chief financial officer. Could you please confirm the authenticity of these financial records? Mr. Chen, who'd been quietly reviewing the data, looked up. These appear to be genuine, and they show significant irregularities that weren't in my official reports. Because someone altered those reports, I said. Would you like to explain that, Michael? He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This is a desperate attempt to maintain control. The board has already seen the truth. The company is failing under your leadership. Is it? I pulled up another document. Because according to our real numbers, the ones not manipulated by you, we're actually up 15% this quarter. Those lost contracts, already renegotiated, once our clients learned about the deliberate delays. The stock price, it would recover immediately once the truth about your manipulation comes to light. I turned to face the board members directly. You all knew my father. You know how he built this company with integrity, innovation, and absolute transparency. What you've seen over the past 6 months wasn't failure of leadership. It was a calculated attempt to steal control of Palmer Industries. The silence in the room was deafening. Michael's face had gone from red to white. You can't prove any of this, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Actually, I smiled. I can. And there's one more thing you should know. I pulled out my final piece of evidence, the document I'd had my lawyers prepare months ago when I first suspected what Michael was planning. While you were busy manipulating reports and sabotaging contracts, I was buying shares. Quietly, carefully through various investment vehicles. As of last week, I own 51% of Palmer Industries. The room exploded in chaos. Board members shouting questions, Kate bursting into tears, Michael trying to shout over everyone that this was impossible. I remained seated, watching the scene unfold. Just as Dad had taught me, let them react, let them process, then take control. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. We have a lot to discuss. But first, I move that we vote to remove Michael Thompson from any position of authority within Palmer Industries, effective immediately. The vote was unanimous. The aftermath of the board meeting was exactly as chaotic as I'd expected. As security escorted Michael from the building, I watched my sister collapse into tears in the conference room. How could you do this? Kate sobbed. He was trying to help the company. I sat beside her, sliding over the file I compiled of Michael's activities. No, Kate, he was trying to steal it. Read these. All of them. Then we'll talk. The next few days were a whirlwind of damage control and reorganization. Our PR team worked overtime to prepare a statement about the leadership restructuring. I spent hours on calls with major clients, personally assuring them that the issues they'd experienced were being resolved. But it was the meeting with our employees that mattered most. The past 6 months have been challenging. I addressed the packed auditorium. Many of you have noticed things weren't quite right. Projects delayed, communications confused, decisions that didn't make sense. I saw heads nodding throughout the crowd. Today, I want to be completely transparent about what happened, and more importantly, where we're going from here. Over the next hour, I laid out everything: Michael's sabotage, the evidence we'd uncovered, and most importantly, our plan moving forward. Every department would be audited, every process reviewed, every decision made in the open. Palmer Industries was built on innovation and integrity. I concluded, those values aren't just words on a wall, They're our foundation. And we're going to rebuild stronger than ever. The applause was thunderous. As people filed out, many stopped to share stories of how they'd noticed things going wrong but hadn't known who to tell. Jenny approached me after the meeting. The Singapore team sent their final report. You'll want to see this. The report detailed exactly how Michael had manipulated our manufacturing schedules, including timestamps and documentation of every delayed order. It was the final nail in his coffin. My phone buzzed. Kate again. She'd spent the past few days reading through everything I compiled. Can we talk? Her message read. Alone. I found her in Dad's old office, my office now, staring at his photo on the wall. He would have seen through Michael immediately, wouldn't he? She said quietly as I entered. Probably, I agreed, sitting beside her. Dad could spot a con artist from a mile away. I should have too. Her voice cracked. All those times he said you were mismanaging things, that you were in over your head. I wanted to believe him because it was easier than admitting I'd married someone who could do this. I took her hand. You weren't the only one he fooled. Half the board believed him too. But you didn't. You saw what he was doing and you prepared. She turned to me, eyes red. How long did you know? I suspected something was wrong about 6 months ago. But I needed proof, and I needed to understand how deep it went. The share purchases? I nodded. I started buying quietly as soon as I confirmed he was working with our competitors. I knew he'd try something like this eventually. He's demanding a divorce settlement, she said suddenly. Wants half of my shares in the company. Let me guess, he claims he's entitled to them because of his contributions to Palmer Industries. Kate nodded miserably. Well, I smiled. Wait until he sees what else we found. I pulled up another file on my laptop. Records of accounts Michael had been hiding. Money he'd skinned from company contracts. Your prenup had a fraud clause, didn't it? Yes, but oh. Her eyes widened as she realized the implications. This would trigger it. This would obliterate it. He'll be lucky if he doesn't face criminal charges. The next week was a blur of legal meetings and corporate restructuring. Our stock price, as I predicted, rebounded as soon as the truth about Michael's manipulation came to light. Several major clients who'd been wooed away by our competitors returned, eager to work with a company that had shown such resilience. But the real victory came in the small moments. Seeing employees walk taller, hearing laughter in the hallways again, watching teams collaborate without fear of sabotage. 1 month after Michael's removal, I received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Chen, our CFO's wife and my father's oldest friend, appeared in my office carrying a familiar leather portfolio. Your father asked me to give you this, she said, placing it on my desk, when the time was right. Inside, I found a letter written in Dad's distinctive scrawl. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, you faced your first real test as leader of Palmer Industries. Mrs. Chen promised to hold this letter until she saw you handle a crisis with the strength and wisdom I always knew you possessed. Leadership isn't just about making good decisions. It's about preventing bad actors from destroying what good people have built. I've watched you grow from a curious child who loved exploring the factory floor into a woman who understands every aspect of this business. You were never just my successor, Sarah. You were my greatest investment. Take care of our people. Trust your instincts. And remember, the Palmer name stands for something bigger than profit margins and stock prices. I'm proud of you, baby girl. Love, Dad. Tears blurred my vision as I finished reading. Mrs. Chen squeezed my shoulder gently. He knew, she said softly, that someone would try to take this from you eventually. That's why he taught you everything. Not just the business side, but how to spot the wolves in sheep's clothing. I wiped my eyes, looking out over the city my father had helped build. I just wish that he could see you now. She smiled. Oh, my dear, he saw this version of you long ago. Why do you think he was so confident about the future? 3 months after Michael's attempted takeover, Palmer Industries posted its strongest quarter in company history. Innovation flourished, employee satisfaction soared, and our reputation for integrity attracted top talent from around the world. Kate, after a mercifully quick divorce, threw herself into learning the business properly. She had Dad's eye for design and my mother's talent for marketing, skills that had been suppressed during her marriage to Michael. As for Michael, last I heard, he was trying to launch a consulting business, claiming expertise in corporate turnarounds. His LinkedIn profile conveniently omitted his time at Palmer Industries. 1 year to the day after the board meeting that changed everything, I stood in the same conference room, addressing a very different audience. Our employees had just finished presenting their ideas for the company's future, innovations in sustainable technology, community outreach programs, mentorship initiatives. A year ago, I said, looking around at the eager faces, someone tried to convince us that Palmer Industries was failing, that we needed to abandon our values to survive, that integrity was a luxury we couldn't afford. The room was silent, everyone remembering those dark days. Instead, we proved that doing things the right way, the Palmer way, isn't just morally correct, it's good business. Every person in this room contributed to that proof. I raised my glass, feeling the weight of my father's letter in my pocket, to Palmer Industries and to the people who make it great. The response was unanimous and heartfelt. As we celebrated, I thought about everything we'd overcome. Michael had tried to destroy what my father built, thinking that manipulation and sabotage were stronger than integrity and innovation. He'd never understood that real power isn't about what you can tear down. It's about what you can build up, and we were just getting started. The next morning, as I walked through the factory floor just like I had as a child, an older worker stopped me. "Your dad would be proud," he said simply, "not just of saving the company, but of how you did it." I smiled, touching the letter in my pocket. "Thanks, Joe, but we're not done yet. There's still so much to build." And that, after all, was the greatest revenge, not just preserving my father's legacy, but expanding it, making it stronger, better, more impactful than even he had imagined. Michael had tried to write our ending. Instead, he'd only succeeded in proving why the Palmer name would endure long after he was forgotten.